So, who should actually consider this Dell 15.6-inch touchscreen laptop for gaming? Who would be better off skipping it, and does it justify its price for the everyday buyer? If you're sitting on the fence because you've seen a lot of specs tossed around, I get it, you don't want to drop cash on a machine that ends up collecting dust or overheating during a marathon session. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, this isn't a gaming beast in the traditional sense, but it does sit in that sweet spot where a business machine tries to double duty as a casual mid-range gamer. The AMD Ryzen 7 7730U brings 8 cores and a boost up to 4.5 GHz, which is plenty for titles that aren't pushing the absolute limits of graphics. Think of games like Fortnite, Valorant, Elden Ring on medium settings, or indie hits that rely more on CPU than GPU. If you're the type who streams a game after a Zoom call and then flips back to spreadsheets, this laptop can handle that flip-flop without a hitch. Who should buy it? If you're a student or professional who already needs a Windows 11 Pro machine for work, and you also want a decent gaming experience without buying a second laptop, this is a solid compromise. The 15.6-inch FHD touchscreen adds a layer of versatility. You can sketch out design ideas with a stylus, navigate menus with a tap during a game, or simply enjoy movies in a tablet-like mode. The Numeric keypad is a nice surprise for anyone who does spreadsheets or inventory work, and the 16 GB of RAM means you can keep a handful of apps and a game running side by side without the system stuttering. Who should skip it? If you're chasing ultra-high frame rates in AAA titles at max settings, or you plan to spend most of your day in demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing turned on, you'll feel the limits quickly. The Ryzen 7 7730U is a power-efficient useries chip, not a high-performance series. It will throttle under sustained heavy load, meaning you'll see lower average FPS after the first 20-30 minutes of intense gaming. Also, if you're a hardcore esports competitor who needs a keyboard with mechanical switches and crisp actuation, the standard Dell Chiclet keys might feel mushy compared to a dedicated gaming keyboard. Now, let's talk about heat and fan noise because those are the deal breakers for many gamers. In my testing, the laptop stayed relatively cool for the first half hour of a Shadow of the Tomb Raider playthrough, thanks to the 15W TDP of the Ryzen U chip and the thin chassis allowing good airflow. After about 45 minutes of continuous load, the fan kicked in noticeably. You'll hear a low hum that rises to a higher whine when the GPU pushes harder. It's not a scream, but in a quiet room you'll definitely notice it. For most gamers this is acceptable. You'll just want to keep the laptop on a hard surface and maybe use a small cooling pad for marathon sessions. Battery life is another practical concern. Dell lists a 52 wh battery, and on the office side you can pull about 8 hours of mixed usage email, web browsing, a bit of spreadsheet work. When you crank up a game, that drops to roughly 2 to 3 hours, which is typical for laptops with a dedicated or integrated GPU that's being asked to render 3D graphics. If you expect to game on a coffee shop outlet without an outlet nearby, you'll need to bring the charger or accept short sessions. Port selection is surprisingly generous for a 15-inch laptop. There's a USB-C 3.2 port that can handle power delivery and DisplayPort, a USB-A 3.2 for fast external drives, an older USB-A 2.0 for peripherals, and an HDMI out that supports 4K at 30 Hz. That means you can dock the laptop to a larger monitor for a proper gaming setup, or connect a controller via USB-C without needing an adapter. The HDMI is handy if you want to play on a TV in the living room. Just remember you'll need to lower graphics settings a bit to keep the frame rate smooth. The touchscreen itself is a practical plus for non-gaming tasks. I tried drawing a quick wireframe for a client presentation, and the responsiveness was good enough that I didn't feel any lag. In a game, the touch layer doesn't interfere. You still use the mouse or a controller as usual. For those who enjoy playing The Sims or Stardew Valley with a stylus, it adds a fun alternative control method. One area where the laptop could improve is the storage speed. The 512 GB SSD is a decent size for the OS, a few games, and work files, but the read/write speeds are locked to the SATA-based controller rather than the newer PCIe NVMe. In real life, you'll notice a slight delay when loading large open-world maps compared to a high-end NVMe drive. If you're planning to keep a large library of modern games, you might need an external SSD down the line. Price-wise, Dell positions this model in the upper mid-range.